Under the hazy glow of an early Congolese dawn, the dense foliage whispered secrets of an ancient world, now on the brink of catastrophic upheaval. In this narrative, I recount a dark chapter in the history of the Congo, a period defined by imperial ambition, scientific exploitation of natural resources, and the horrifying tactics employed by King Leopold II of Belgium. His calculated pursuit of wealth led him to the heart of Africa, where the chaos of colonial expansion clashed with the rich tapestry of local life. By the late 19th century, as European powers engaged in a competition marked by technology and political maneuvering, Cong loomed as both a promised land and a site ripe for devastation. The vast Congo Basin, with its sprawling rainforests, meandering rivers, and a myriad of indigenous cultures, became the stage for one of history's most brutal experiments in resource extraction. Expert analyses reveal that the economic value of rubber and ivory in international markets soared during this era, which transformed the Congo into a commodity battlefield. Technical studies have since detailed how colonial administrators exploited natural resources through innovative but ruthless methods of extraction. However, beneath the veneer of industrial progress lay unspeakable human suffering. The region's indigenous people faced a regime that was as calculated as it was treacherous, a blend of scientific rationalization and cold-blooded pragmatism in the name of progress. Data from historical records suggests that millions of Congolese were displaced, while countless villages were decimated under policies that prized profit over human life. This introduction thus sets the stage for a deeper exploration into the mechanisms of power, brutal administration, and the technical justifications that political scientists and economic historians continue to scrutinize to this day. Archival studies reveal that estimates suggest a precipitous 40 to 50% decline in the local population during this era, a statistic corroborated by extensive forensic and econometric analyses. Researchers apply advanced statistical methods to validate these figures, underscoring the catastrophic human toll and the systematic nature of resource exploitation in this dark historical chapter. King Leopold II's ascent within the corridors of European power was marked by shrewd diplomacy and a meticulously crafted public persona. Seizing upon the prevailing sentiments of progress and civilization, Leopold positioned himself as a benevolent benefactor, channeling national ambitions and personal profit into an ostensibly philanthropic mission. Behind this refined image, a calculated strategy unfolded. Leopold pursued control over the Congo not as a colonial possession of Belgium, but as his personal venture, distinct from official state endeavors. In 1885, after securing international recognition through the Berlin Conference agreements, Leopold officially established the Congo Free State, a territory that was legally distinct from Belgian colonial holdings. This administrative separation allowed him to operate with a degree of autonomy that defied standard accountability mechanisms. Detailed records and diplomatic correspondences reveal that Leopold's governance model was underpinned by rigorous yet dehumanizing financial and labor policies, fundamentally grounded in the era's emerging economic theories and statistical methodologies. As the framework of the Free State took shape, technical documents underscored an emphasis on the systematic collection of tributes from the local populations. Economic analyses from that period indicate that revenues generated from rubber extraction and ivory trade were reinvested into further consolidating his power. Sophisticated bookkeeping practices and early economic models were employed to quantify profits, leading to an era of resource extraction that blurred the lines between sustainable economic enterprise and ruthless exploitation. Architects of this regime designed administrative and logistical systems with precise technical specifications, often drawing on military and industrial management approaches. Inventories, quotas, and even rudimentary forms of performance metrics became tools to maximize output and suppress dissent. Yet, beneath the veneer of orderly management lay policies that implemented severe punishments and human rights abuses with cold efficiency. The establishment of the Congo Free State, steeped in both technical innovation and barbaric exploitation, set the stage for an extended period of cruelty. Modern historians and economists study rigorously, Through detailed archival records and fact-driven analyses, it becomes apparent that Leopold's regime was as much an experiment in unregulated capitalism as it was an instrument of colonial domination. Meticulous quantitative data, future economic models, and refined archival inquiry continue to validate these historical claims, bridging a connection between advanced analytical techniques and the cruel policies that defined Leopold's reign. Extensive research panels and modern statistical analyses further substantiate the systematic exploitation orchestrated under his rule. This evidence remains irrefutable. Within the Congo Free State, the brutality of King Leopold's regime manifested in a series of horrifying atrocities that were both methodically implemented and ruthlessly enforced. Expert-level historical research indicates that resource extraction, particularly of rubber, was administered via a regiment of overseers whose methods were unrelentingly violent and technically precise. Detailed records reveal that quotas were enforced to exact scientific measures of productivity, with each region expected to harvest an amount of latex that proved impossible to achieve without severe coercion. In this technical paradigm, the severing of hands emerged not merely as random brutality, but as a calculated method of enforcing compliance, effectively turning communities into living laboratories of terror and control. The accuracy with which this system operated is underscored by meticulous administrative reports of the era. Quantitative figures indicate that, in some districts, failure to meet extraction quotas resulted in the amputation of one or more hands. Medical and logistical records from the period show that over 2,000 documented cases reported such mutilations occurring within a single year, a statistic that starkly highlights the regime's reliance on physical punishment as a form of biometric control. In many cases, these acts were systematically recorded. Each severed hand served as both evidence and a deterrent, a horrifyingly precise metric for ensuring that target numbers were met by instilling a pervasive climate of fear. In the midst of rubber camps and remote trading posts, bureaucratic documents and personal testimonies intertwined to form a narrative of calculated depravity. Administrative instructions directed commanders to observe strict numeric quotas, punishing any deviation with immediate and brutal consequences. Statisticians of the time were employed to maintain intricate records, counting not only the rubber brought in, but also the number of hands lost. This macabre accounting allowed Leopold's officials to monitor productivity down to the most granular levels. Advanced techniques in data analysis, rudimentary by modern standards yet shockingly effective, were used to record and compare performance across vast distances. Such records persist today as clear evidence of the state's reliance on data-driven terror. Moreover, technical assessments by forensic historians have reconstructed the grim process. The use of dismemberment as a control mechanism can now be understood through the lens of modern systems theory. By reducing the workforce's physical capabilities, the regime instilled a self-perpetuating cycle of subjugation, where each brutal act increased the likelihood of future compliance. Visual records, including photographs and detailed sketches, provide graphic representation of the aftermath. Remnants of human hands, juxtaposed against the lush backdrops of the Congolese wilderness. The scientific analysis of these images, combined with eyewitness accounts, supports the conclusion that such methods were intentionally designed to demoralize entire populations. The paradigm of brutality extended into every facet of administration. Every manager, contractor, and agent was required to submit detailed reports that chronicled both successful harvests and the punitive measures taken, often including the numerical count of reported mutilations. In some cases, agricultural engineers and economic statisticians performed field measurements to ascertain productivity levels, which were directly correlated with the number of inflicted punishments. A grim equation that translates human suffering into empirically measured data. As horrifying as these practices were, they were embedded in a regime that prided itself on efficiency and quantitative control, features that continue to be analyzed in academic circles to this day. Furthermore, the regime's reliance on sophisticated record-keeping and evaluative metrics highlights the degree to which modern administrative theory was appropriated for grotesque ends. What might be considered routine in an industrial context was repurposed into a tool for systematic dehumanization. The brutality was not random, it was engineered. Each severed hand was meticulously documented, creating a system where human lives were reduced to numeric data points, thereby stripping individuals of their intrinsic value and replacing humanity with sterile figures on a ledger. The number of amputations, the statistical probability of punishment, and the calculated metrics of rubber yield form an unsettling matrix, embodying the intersection of ruthless imperial ambition and emerging scientific management practices. In this detailed narrative, the data converges with the human experience, forging a chilling tableau of terror that is both quantifiable and profoundly personal. The technical precision and methodical nature of the punitive measures underscore that this violence was an integral component of the economic model. The brutal efficiency with which these acts were carried out exposes a dark synthesis of high modernism and barbarism, a synthesis where advanced technologies and statistical rigor were repurposed to orchestrate mass human rights abuses. Today, experts continue to analyze these methods, employing mathematical models, forensic analysis, and comparative historical studies to fully understand the systematic implementation of terror within the Congo. The legacy of these atrocities serves as a reminder of the perils inherent in the merger of bureaucratic efficiency and inhumane practices, a cautionary lesson for scholars and policymakers. Turning to the human toll, the narrative shifts towards individual stories and the enduring scars borne by witnesses and survivors of Leopold's regime in the Congo. In the shadow of overwhelming brutality, local communities experience trauma that defies quantitative metrics, yet can be partially appreciated through the painstaking work of historians and anthropologists. Detailed demographic studies have revealed that entire families were decimated, with survivors bearing the physical and psychological remnants of forced amputations and relentless violence. Researchers, drawing upon both archival testimonies and oral history, document that the process of amputation was not a random event, but an institutionally mandated penalty designed to control labor and suppress dissent with precision. One account, recorded in the annals of local oral traditions, describes a small village where the elder, whose weathered face and measured gaze embodied decades of sorrow, witnessed the brutal severing of hands as both a public punishment and a stark warning. The elder's recollections, meticulously preserved and passed down through generations, provide an authentic glimpse of the pervasive fear that gripped the community. His eyes, silent witnesses to the horrific spectacle, recount more than just vivid imagery. They encapsulate the deep loss of identity and the erosion of communal bonds. Surviving members of the village, who have dedicated large portions of their lives to relaying these stories, present quantitative evidence that underscores severe drops in local population numbers following such events. Academic analyses bolster these accounts with data in regions where mutilations were recorded more frequently. Longitudinal studies show a statistically significant decline in overall productivity and social cohesion. This correlation is supported by demographic models that compare pre- and post-atrocity population figures, often indicating a reduction of over 30% in community size within a few short years. Advanced statistical techniques have been applied to dissect these patterns, highlighting the long-term effects of such trauma on cultural identity and economic resilience. The lost hands, recorded meticulously in administrative documents, serve as chilling data points in these analyses, quantifying the sheer ruthlessness embedded within the system. This personal narrative of suffering is interwoven with the mechanical documentation of atrocity. Every hand that was cut off, every field that lay fallow, contributes to a larger, data-rich tapestry that modern scholars decode with technical rigor. The convergence of personal testimony and empirical analysis yields a rich, multifaceted understanding of the human condition under colonial oppression. As researchers continue to unearth detailed records and reassemble scattered oral histories, the stories of these witnesses emerge with clarity, lending an enduring voice to those who suffered. The transformation of community life under this oppressive regime, marked by both immediate physical harm and long-lasting emotional scars, remains a poignant reminder of the capacity for cruelty when economic ambition overrides human decency. In meticulous studies, interdisciplinary teams combine qualitative testimony with quantitative data to map the degradation of human life systematically recorded during this period. Their findings, through rigorous models and comparative analysis, add indispensable depth to our understanding of this historical trauma. This integration is profoundly revealing. International awareness slowly emerged from the shadows of Leopold's brutal regime. Despite the tightly controlled narrative within the Congo Free State, information leaked through the dedicated efforts of missionaries, expatriates, and intrepid journalists. Detailed investigative reports and relentless correspondence brought numerical data and poignant testimonies to global forums where scholars and reformers analyzed first-hand accounts. These analyses, based on stringent fact-checking and early statistical assessments, provided incontrovertible evidence of the extreme measures employed to fulfill rubber quotas, including the systematic mutilation that shocked the international community. As global press began scrutinizing the records, where meticulous ledger entries recorded both economic outputs and the grim count of amputations, the data inspired early human rights advocates to rally for reform. University studies and scientific papers surfaced with charts, graphs, and tables illustrating the correlation between resource extraction quotas and human losses. In packed lecture halls in Europe and North America, experts presented these findings using precise numbers and technical language that underscored the scale of the atrocities. This international outcry catalyzed discussions in academic assemblies and policy meetings alike. The convergence of precise fact-driven analysis, cross-continental documentary evidence, and impassioned public demonstrations forced governments to reconsider their tacit support. Over time, a growing body of specialized literature further detailed the mechanisms of control, illustrating with numeric data how economic exploitation was entwined with systematic brutality. This collective global awareness marked the early foundations of what would eventually evolve into modern human rights law, emphasizing deep reform and the protection of human dignity. In summary, the combination of rigorous documentation, cross-verified statistical analyses, and resolve from first-hand accounts culminated in a robust international outcry. This critical mass response continues to remind us that behind every number lies a profound human story. In reflective conclusion, the legacy of King Leopold's rule in the Congo stands as a stark testament to inhumane practices driven by unchecked imperial ambition. The systematic severing of hands, quantified through meticulous records, has become a symbol of the profound moral failure at the intersection of economics and human rights. Scholarly analyses and forensic studies continue to reveal the chilling precision behind the regime's brutality. Modern evaluations, using advanced data analysis techniques and rigorous historical inquiry, have synthesized these numerical facts with the lingering pain of those who survived. The weight of historical data and personal testimony compels current generations to confront uncomfortable truths. Each documented atrocity and every analytical model serves as a warning against the dehumanization that can arise when bureaucratic fervor overrides empathy. This narrative, built on both detailed fact-checking and somber recollection, urges us to acknowledge the measured scale of oppression and to strive for a future where such systematic cruelty has no place. The enduring impact on communities in the Congo is a clarion call to honor history by ensuring accountability, fostering healing, and rigorously protecting human dignity. Let this measured reflection inspire diligent research and compassionate policies that honor every tragically lost life.